first met Dennis Brown in 1978 at Craster Brown's record shop. His warmth and good humour I'd been a fan, hadn't we all been fans? But off the air, he was just such a great man. And in 1984, I had the privilege of doing an interview with him, and we're playing an extract from that interview now, tracing his very early years in the wonderful world of reggae music. I began by asking him how it had all started.
Well, it all started in Kingston, Jamaica, you know, while I was attending school. And I used to live in this tenement yard on Orange Street, downtown Kingston. Now, the place that I was born wasn't far from where I grew up, which was at the Jubilee Hospital. You hear the thing about the Jubilee Hospital in Kingston, Jamaica. Yeah, and it was in that yard, that tenement yard, that I had the opportunity, or should I say, I was fortunate to be among people like Slim Smith, Roy Shirley, The Techniques, Prince Buster, Scratch Lee, Perry, Clancy Eccles, you name it, the whole lot, you know. And it was a guy called Pakai, and he used to call me like each day, you know, and say, "Come D Brown, come let us do some singing." And then we would be singing songs made by Alton Ellis, the Paragons, you know. I remember one particular song that I used to sing a great deal was the song called "Ain't That Loving You" by Alton Ellis. We used to be going like, you know, we would be making the various sound, you know, like on saxophone. I would be singing the saxophone part and then do the vocals afterwards, you know. So it was good. It really all started there, you know. Well, while attending school, you know, in Jamaica used to have things like each term, all the schools would have like breaking up concerts, end of term concerts. So you would have girls from these various schools would come around the business and try and find where all the artists hang out, you know, who they deal with, and where's their HQ that they could contact them to come and do these concerts, which would be voluntarily. And like at that time, you had people like the Chosen Few, you had Derek Harriott, Scotty, and the whole lot, you know. They used to be doing all these shows, you know. So you had schools like Alpha, St. Hugh's, and Merle Grove, and Immaculate, and Wolmer's Girls' School. Each term I would be singing as the boy wonder, singing songs like Julia on My Mind, Solomon, Ain't That Loving You, and all that. And even then, that helped me to gain popularity with the people in Jamaica. But while living in this tenement yard, used to have a lot of people. They used to have a lot of JLP supporters in the yard. Like my mom, she was a die-hearted supporter of the Labour Party. No, every year they used to have like a conference to discuss their movements or make whatever plans they have to make it go through and manifest and all that, you know. So on this particular year, while we were having the conference, after the talking section, I appeared on that show, and I think Desmond Decker was on the show at the same time, and he had one of the popular songs there at the time, and I remember the song I sang on this show was a song called Unity, U-N-I-T-Y, Unity. And the audience was overwhelmed with my singing styling and the way I handled the show. And they encored me. But this time when they encored me, they were stoning me with money. I'll never forget that after adding up all that money, that the true understated, and it was £9 something. That was when I bought my first suit. And after that, Siaga and Byron Lee used to move very close, you know, so he had introduced me to Byron Lee and saying that Byron should take care of me and see that I get, you know, the right exposure and the right projection and build me as an artist, you know. Well, Byron Lee was one of the main band and businessman at the time in the music industry in Jamaica, right? And they used to have various shows around the country. I remember quite well. On these shows, you had people like the Fabulous Flames. You used to have Upton Lewis. You had a girl called Patsy. You remember Stranger and Patsy, right? Well, Patsy used to do solo acts. So she would be on the show. You had Alton Ellis. You had John Holt and the Paragons. You had Bob Andy. And you had the Blues Busters. And the Melodians. Because they were swinging at the time, too. Swing and Dine on all them songs and Little Nut Tree. That was where, again, some of my earlier exposure within the business, you know, and I still haven't regretted all that. Give thanks. Now, still on the point of with Siaga and Byron Lee, right? Well, after doing those shows, in 1968, the very first time Johnny Nash was coming to Jamaica, they were gonna have this show called Smashville 68. Now on this show, it was billed for King Curtis to appear and the Sweet Inspirations from America, and you had Johnny Nash, and you had the Blues Busters, and I was billed as the Boy Wonder because then I started making an impact on the musical scene, you know, and making a name for myself as well. After the Smashville 68 show, though, Derek Harriott was in the company of Byron Lee at the time, and Byron suggested to Derek that he wanted to turn me over to him to record me professionally. Now, after being with Derek for a while, you know, for a year or two, and nothing wasn't really happening recording-wise, though Derek was really taking care of me real good, you know, because he's a nice guy. And I said to myself, well, boy, it don't seem as if I am getting anywhere with this man. But by then, he had given me this song to go and study, which is the same song, No Man is an Island, right? So I took the song now, studied it and everything now, but during all that time still, my brother was acting as a comedian then. He used to take part in a Jamaican radio program called Life in Hopeful Village. Now, he used to play the part as Man. Now, apart from doing that, he used to do out and do one-off shows, you know, on weekends. So this time he was going to the country to perform with this man called Falcons. He was appearing on the midnight attraction. And he had asked me to come along with him because maybe I could sing a song. So I went along with him and I appeared on the show. And that was how I really meet up with the Falcons. Well, after gigging with them for a period of 2 years or more, you know, one night we were playing at this club called Tit for Tat Club. And Downbeat, Cox and Dad, who happened to pass through the very same night we were playing there. And it seems as if he was associated with the manageress of the band because it was a lady who owned the band, right? So while listening to the band, because at the time we had people like Cynthia Richards, we had Noel Brown of the Chosen Few, we had people like Scotty and myself, you know, so they made arrangement for us to come down to the studio the following Monday because it was a Saturday night that he came into this club. So after I went down to Cox and Dad now and we did the first song, I never forget this song, Love Grows, because it was the same time Chosen Few did the song about, are you gonna break your promise, baby? You know, and we did those songs, and Downbeat was impressed with the way I sang and all that, you know, and asked if I could do an album. Well, I said yes, and I think back and tried to get a couple of songs together to make this album because I had very little knowledge about recording or songwriting for that matter. But we went through and I said, well, this song No Man is an Island was supposed to be recorded for Derek Harriott. But anyway, I got this opportunity so I would make use of it. So I went ahead and I did the No Man is an Island song. So by this time now, Derek was very much upset because he said, well, why you go and do a thing like that? And you should have recorded the song for me. So he went ahead and did the song in his own styling, but my styling was very much different. It was more roots, yeah. And it happened that when the song was released, it took around a year before it really hit because it was a slow creeper. It was infectious, you know.
No man is an island. No man stands alone. Treat each man as your brother, and remember each man's dream as your own. Now we need one another, oh yes, and we ought to try to be friends. Each man has a brother, and each man has a friend. You can live in this world all by yourself. No, 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 you can't make it alone. And just as sure as you try to make it by yourself, you're gonna wake up and find you're gonna need somebody else. No man is an island, oh yes. No man stands alone. Treat each man as a brother, and remember each man's dream as your own.
I was among such great artists such as John Holt, Alton Ellis, the Heptones, Lascelles Perkins, Delroy Wilson, Errol Dunkley, Clarendonians, Larry Marshall, and some that I don't even remember right now. You know, but it was a trip, you know, and it was fulfilling because I had the chance of singing harmony on various songs like Sunday Coming with Alton Ellis and John O's Sad News, OK Fred, and all that in the earlier days. While working with Downbeat now, it wasn't until one day I used to move around with Alton Ellis a lot, you know. So one day Alton said to me, Dennis, you should try and get a guitar from Downbeat, you know, because him have so much inside there. You can get a guitar, go and check him. Well, it happened that this time when I checked Downbeat, the very first time, it seems as if Downbeat was in a bad mood, you know, so I didn't get the guitar then, you know. So I came back out and said to Alton, I don't get the guitar from Downbeat, you know. So Alton said, don't worry, man. I'll tell you when to check him again. No, a couple days passed after that, right? And Alton said, now is the right time to go in and check him now, Dennis. Well, I went in and Downbeat said, well, D-Brown, if you need the guitar, you have to sing at least even 2 more songs, you know, man.
Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson. So I said, all right, boss, no problem. I went in and I did those songs, you know, and after I had to wait around another day extra after doing those songs before I got the guitar. Well, the second day, you know, I went into him and I came back out with the guitar in the plastic the same way, you know. So I went to Alton and said, Altis, the guitar here, ready now. So Altis said, all right, see it? That nice, man. Now just learn to play the guitar. And I never forget Alton showed me the first 3 chords on the guitar, which was C, A minor, and F, back to the C.
First musical schooling.
Right.
If I follow my heart, I'm gonna love you. And if I follow my tears, I'm gonna leave you. But if I follow my eyes when it's crying, I follow what mom says, girl, we'll be true.
Here's 100 painkillers.
I'm gonna love you. And if I follow my tears, I'm gonna leave you. But if I follow my eyes when it's crying time, I'll be crying too. But if I follow what mom says, girl, we'll be true. We'll be true. If I follow my heart.
Well, I worked a lot with Alton Ellis, you know, and I was going into the studio this day that the same engineer, Alton, the same engineer, Sylvan Morris, he was trying to sing the song when I walked in that very same day. No, Alton said, it's D Brown here, let's try to D Brown, If I Follow My Heart. And that was it.
Who composed it? Sylvan Morris composed it?
No, Alton did, you know, Alton did. But we share the publishing on that.
Courtesy of Jam Rap Music. You then moved to Derek Harriott.
Right, because the reason for that, right, I had to leave Downbeat because I thought I wasn't getting the right projection then and the right exposure, not getting any radio play, but not knowing that I was fairly new to the record business because it wasn't really Downbeat's fault. It's like, you hear a lot of people say a lot of bad things about Downbeat. It is not all that bad, boss, I can tell you. Downbeat is one of the nicest man in this business, one of the nicest person to meet. And I'll say this without any apology. I give thanks, and I think I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity to be among Downbeat, because like after leaving Downbeat was like graduating from college. And although he was such a nice person I still wasn't getting the projection I needed then. So I decided to move on because at the time the Heptones was planning to leave him as well. Now, while being on the road doing freelancing and all that, you know, I used to move around with the Heptones a lot as well. Now, they used to be doing a lot of backup harmonies and various artists' songs, you know, for various producers. You know, they used to do this daily. So it was while moving with them I came across producer like Lloyd Matador, because while dealing with Derek at the same time, I was still moving around with the Heptones because I had to survive then.
But did you record with Derek before you recorded with anybody else?
Oh, yes. We did the song called Obsession, which after recording it, we decided to change the word obsession to Lips of Wine. And that was how the song got the title, Lips of Wine.
Well, I've been thinking lately much of my baby, thinking how she needs me, and I don't seem to know if she's feeling so bad, feeling so bad, feeling so bad. Maybe it's better if I forget her, let her go on. How I long to hold her tenderly, how I long to hold her close to me. Maybe someday she will change her mind and let me taste her lips of wine, lips of wine. Oh, oh, lips of wine. In the morning, lips of wine. Oh, oh, lips of wine. In the evening, lips of wine. Oh, oh, lips of wine. In the morning, lips of wine. Oh, oh, lips of wine.
Lips of Wine, no, it wasn't written by myself alone. It was a guy who was much older than I was at the time still, you know, because he was a big man, elderly person. I shared writing that song with him.
Who was he?
A guy called Barry. He's not involved in the business anymore though. Well, after that now, after doing that, we did songs like Concentration, Silhouette, Musical Heat Wave, Changing Time.
Now that the change has come, we must have some fun. Now that the change has come, we must have some fun. Watching the kids playing on the lawn, they're looking gay as the bright sun shines. Nothing to worry about, nothing at all, 'cause now the change is here. Now that the change has come, we'll be praying all day long. Now that the change has come, we'll unite and live as one. We'll stop fussing and fighting among ourselves, 'cause now we'll see in the light. Nothing to worry about, nothing at all, 'cause now the change is here. And fighting among ourselves, 'cause now we have seen the light. Nothing to worry about, nothing at all, 'cause now the change is here. Now that the change has come, we'll be praying all day long. Now that the change has come, we'll unite and live as one. Now that the change has come, now that the change has come, yeah. Now that the change has come.
That song, Changing Times, right? I didn't write that song to sing it personally. I was writing that song for the artist Roman Stewart. And then Derek said he would buy the song from me so that Roman could sing the song. Well, after Roman sang it and it was released, Derek said it would have been a good idea for me to do a version of the same song and put it on the album Super Reggae and Soul Hits. So I did that, and while doing that then, right, and moving with the Heptones, I had this offer from Lloyd Matador, who was producing the Abyssinians at the time with songs like Kim Masgan and Liquoroy, Bongo Natty, and when I was a boy, Papa and Mama used to say, don't go in that Rastaman's way, because he will take you away. Heptones and myself sang harmony on that song, right? And so I was kind of making an impact on the scene, as I said earlier on, and he made this offer to me, which I fully felt like doing this song called Baby Don't Do It, which I started to get much more exposure then after playing the song Baby.
To Tracklist at the Opera with Hugh McPherson.
Now I know that you're not smart. How you satisfy and deny yourself. Baby, don't do it. Don't break your own heart. Even though I'll give you another chance. Oh, girl. chance. Now I know your mistakes, and you'll never try to hurt yourself again. 'Cause you have done me no wrong. Baby, can't you understand? Don't you ever try to hurt yourself anymore. Oh, girl, don't you try to hurt yourself anymore. That you're not wise. Look how you made yourself look so sad. Baby, don't you do it. Don't break your heart. Even though I'll give you another chance. Oh, girl. Even though I'll give you another chance. Baby, don't you do it. Baby, don't you do it.
That was when I made my first my second number one hit with Baby Don't Do It.
What was your first?
No Man Is an Island, and then Baby Don't Do It followed after.
So why didn't you do more with Lloyd Matador?
Well, like I said, I thought Lloyd Matador wasn't really my bag. He wasn't my cup of tea. You know? No disrespect to him. But the fact still remain, I thought that I had to move with someone who had more success then in the business. So I decided to move on. And while working with Eptones, as I said, doing freelancing, backup harmonies and all that, you know, I came across Prince Buster, who made me an offer, and I did the two songs, If I Had the World and One Day Soon for him.
One day soon we'll be together, sharing our love all alone. One day soon I'll make you love me, baby. Love me. And it won't be long before I make you my bride. One day soon I'll take you to my home. I will take you home. There you'll meet the whole family. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
we had to do that twice because the very first time we did it, he was saying that the rhythm was too slow and all that, so we had to redo it again and voice it over and everything. But it was kind of nice, but he was a kind of hard person to work with. But it was a trip, and I was freelancing, and you see, one of the main reasons for that too as well. You see, John Holt was hotting up the place. You know, he had around 7 to a dozen songs in the chart at the time. You know, and I was very much inspired by John Holt because I thought he had the sound more like Nat King Cole. And he used to sing songs that would make girls scream. You know, so I said, well then, to follow John Holt's footstep would be a good idea, you know, in getting through to the people, because he sang some real hard songs, you know. John Holt is one of the greatest songwriters, man, ever.
By the look on your face, girl, you're my enemy, girl. By the look on your face, girl, you're my enemy, girl. Remember that Friday night when you stole my pants off the line. So please tell me.
Kiss 100 paying tribute.
Tuning into Kiss FM with Rodigan on your radio.
Look on your face, girl. You're my enemy, girl. By the look on your face, girl, you're my enemy, girl. Remember that Friday night when you stole my pants off the line. So please tell me how you wanna make love to me. Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. By the look in your eyes, girl, you're a cheater. By the look in your eyes, girl, you're a cheater. Going around and stealing people's clothing every day. Oh, please tell me, do you wanna be a cheater? Instead of moving star. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Whoa, yeah. Now here comes man called in this brown selection. Got a black magic woman. Got a black magic woman. I got a black magic woman. Got me so blind I can see. Yes, she's a black magic woman. She's trying to make a devil out of me. Turn your back. on in the strong selection. Got your spell on me, baby. Got your spell on me, baby. You've got your spell on me, baby. Turning my heart into stone.
Well, how I came about singing that song, to be frank with you. You see, it was while singing as lead vocalist with the band Falcons, right? I used to do this song on the bandstand, you know, so I thought then I would do a reggae version. And Phil Pratt and the Soul Syndicate band had a good relationship, you know. So went into the studio and we did songs like Let Love In, What About the Half, and Black Magic Woman.
Which studios did you use to record in those days?
At Randy's studio. And yeah, it was mainly Randy's studio because Randy's studio was really clapping at the time. You know, it was really the mover, like how you have Channel One who had the sound now. Randy's was a studio who had the sound at that time.
So where did Gregory come in? Gregory Isaacs.
Gregory had this song called Lonely Lover. He and Daryl Dunkel was working together, and they had songs like Movie Star, Lonely Lover, and Your Love Is Amazing. No, Gregory was having this session, right? That was the time he recorded songs like Village of the Underprivileged. Well, Gregory had always loved me as his little brother. He thought it would have been good for me to come and do a recording for him. So I did the song called In Their Own Way.
How do you feel when you're walking on the road and there are folks that criticize you each time you pass them by in their own way? Yes, in their own way. The way you live and the things you do in life makes them hesitate and wonder how you live the way you do, but they'll never get next to you. No, they never get next to you. Whoa, yeah, yeah.
That was when I first knew that I could get even 25 records to hold underneath my arm as complimentary records. You know, he opened my eyes to that fact that yes, you could have 25 records for yourself as complimentary records, because a lot of these producers in Jamaica at the time, they never used to love give away even half dozen records to the singers because they were more thinking of capitalizing other than even donating a couple complimentary records to the artist, you know. So I give thanks to Gregor for that.
What was the recording industry like in those days?
Well, I would say comparing to now, it's very much different because in those days we never used to use like scratch mic voices and all that. Like when you're doing the actual recording, right? You nowadays, right? You have a scratch mic, and then while the
What do you mean by a scratch mic?
the scratch mic is while the musicians are playing, doing the actual recording. You have a mic that you sing and give them a lead to what they're really playing. Guide vocal. So we call it a scratch mic. You know. Well, in those days now, we never used to use scratch mics and all that. We used to have just the musicians go in and they play, and because it was more 4-track recording then than now, wherein you have 16, 24 track and even 32. And in those days, if a bass man would slip up, you couldn't go and dub over the bass because you'd probably be cutting out something as well, whether it would be the piano or the bass drum or something. But now it's very much different because each instrument are on different tracks. You know, so if a guy slip up, you could always pull him out of that track and then let him dub the line again.
Now, you mentioned earlier on that you'd been working with Alton Ellis, composing songs, and of course you worked with him at Studio One. And then you teamed up with him again, didn't you?
Right, because he had these rhythms on tape, you know, and I booked him up one day at Tubby's studio, working. You know, so as I walked in same time, I said, D-Brown, you're the right man to sing on this rhythm. So I said, all right, let's hear it. And as I listened to the rhythm, I started writing the lyrics to the song and making up the melody as we go along. And that was how that song came about, Stages in Life.
The stages in life, it's for a man to see and know. There are a lot of things that could hurt a man, like taking away his daily bread. I know how it feels when a man's heart is broken. Whoa. As a man, we've got to stand these blows. Take life serious, 'cause it ain't no joke. There's the children to be fed, and not by instead. No. We all have our own responsibility, and we forgot to live a life and be free. Oh, it hurts so bad when there's no one to depend on. We've got to help ourselves day by day, and we'll be helped in some other way. Oh, yeah.
After we did that song, we took it to Dynamic Sounds, who released it as a single. It wasn't a hit then at the time, you know, but we sold some record, and that was the beginning of the beginning, production-wise, for me.
Great song. Classic song. So when and how did Niney come in to the story?
Well, the way in which myself and Niney started working was like magic, because it wasn't anything planned as such. I was walking one day because I didn't have a car then in Jamaica. You know, 9 was passing, so he stopped and gave me a lift because he was going home and I was heading in the same direction he was going into. Now, he had invited me to his house, you know, to come and visit him because that was how we started getting acquainted with each other. And after that, now, we decided to go in and do some work together. So we went into the studio and come up with a song called Westbound Train.
Last night I worked at home. I just went for a stroll. But when I returned, I saw this note underneath my door stating, you'll never ever see me again. So now our love must end. You'll never ever see me again, my friend. Cause I'll be taking the train, I'll be taking the westbound train. I'll be going to a place where there is happiness.
An extract from an interview